I'm Kristen.
And I'm Maddie.
We're sisters and heavy readers.
Join us every single week to talk stories, interview authors, and collab with fellow book nerds.
Welcome to the Chris and Mad Show.
Welcome to the show, you guys. Today we are going to talk about a topic we are very passionate about, and that is keeping our shelves decluttered.
Oh, and we are on a roll right now because I don't know if you can tell from the background, but Maddie is in the middle of a sorting of the shelves. And
I'm constantly doing this, to be fair. Yeah, it's an ongoing process. It's not a one and doneer.
It's like Maddie's little bookshelf shuffle, if you will, that she likes to do. And I come over, I'm like, I can't find any of our books because she's just redone it. But we really do have this down to like a science. I think Maddie maybe created the science and it has helped me, and hopefully it helps you guys. There was a time when I did not have the big, beautiful library I have today, and I had two shelves. They were my grandmother's. Solid wood, gorgeous, but they were full. And they were so full that if I wanted to add a book to my shelf, I had to remove another book from my shelf. The first thing to go were the children's books. I'm going to be honest. I said, kids, you can have a shelf in your room. You're welcome. But then it started being, husband, I'm going to move your wiring and your house books because that's what he likes, And I just felt like there's just not enough room. But things have changed. If you have a job like Maddie's and mine where you love to read and review books, you're going to need more space. So that really helped me out, but it is because I have the art of removing when you add. I've never felt like I have clutter. So we're going to help you overcoming that for sure today.
Yeah, I think when you buy a shelf, or let's say in my case, you move into a home that has built-in bookshelves. I moved into a home that has seven built-in bookshelves. So I think I felt like this pressure just from a homemaker standpoint or a decorator standpoint to fill these shelves. And that was silly. I do not recommend. So now I just take a totally different approach to it. And we're so excited to dive into that today. But I think that the end goal for anybody with a book collection is that when you look at that collection, it inspires you. It fills you with either feelings of nostalgia for the stories that you've read and you love, or it fills you with excitement for books that you're about to read, or it feels like it represents you in some way, or it feels like part of you in some way. So we just want bookshelves to spark joy, as cheesy as that sounds. We don't want our bookshelves to be an eyesore. We don't want our bookshelves to overwhelm us
or become that catch-all. When you it's just the place that you set everything, like any book merch, any book knickknacks, obviously books, but then you look at it and you're like, that's going to be a big time investment to clean that up.
Yeah.
That's not the vibe that we are hoping to help you achieve from this podcast.
And there are so many ways to do this. And so we're just going to get into some kind of guiding principles. But at the end of the day, your shelves are yours and they should bring you joy. And if they do that, then you're doing it right. Your shelves do not need to look like anybody else's.
No.
And what you choose to keep and how you choose to arrange it, it should speak to you. That is what it should do. So
yeah, it's like Tabitha Brown says, that's your business.
That is your
business. Okay, so first thing we should talk about is before you can make shelves like your dream, like what you are wanting to feel when you look at your shelves, there's going to be a little bit of a decluttering moment, or maybe a purge, a little unhaul moment. So one way you can do this is just getting rid of the books that you don't love. So you could possibly be a person who just likes to keep all the books you've read, and it's like a way that you keep a tally, almost like your Goodreads list. That's where me and Maddie do it, of every single book you've read. So if that is you, perfectly fine. You just need to make sure you have enough space. But if you're realizing you've been doing that without even realizing you're doing that, you can go through your Goodreads or wherever you're tracking. Maybe you're on one of the other apps and see what you rated things. And maybe if it's not a 4 or higher, it might be time to get rid of it.
I would say too, if if you actively disliked the book or it didn't live up to expectations or you didn't finish it or it's been sitting there, you've started it, but you've never gone back and finished it, those are great candidates for the unhaul. Now, I want to zoom back a little bit. If you're a person who is currently building your book collection and your shelves are not yet full, okay, so this might be you as well. I think this same principle can guide you in your shopping.
Yes.
Okay. So let's say you read some books in the past in high school, or you remember reading a book on a summer trip, or you got it from the library and you think, I'd like to own that. Just check in with yourself. Like, if you're going to have books that you've already read on your shelves, let's make sure those are books that bring you joy, that you either want to reread, that you want to lend out to people, that when you look at it, you remember it, or you remember aspects of it, you remember how it made you feel. Like, that's just a good kind of rule of thumb for it to earn a spot on your bookshelf, whether your shelf is full or is still being filled. Everything should still earn a place. Just because you have room on your shelves doesn't mean that you just fill it with crap. You know what I mean? Like make stuff earn its place. Space in your home is earned. It should be earned. So
it's like a reflection of your taste too. So like, if you're like me, one of my favorite scenarios to imagine when I am deciding what I want on my shelves is I have a pretty close-knit neighborhood, and people come over and hang out with their kids, and we hang out in each other's homes. And when people come to my home, my dining room is a pretty big room connected to my family room, and my library is in my dining room. So everybody's there, we eat there, and everybody's eyes are always pulled to my shelves. And if somebody were to point at a book and say, "What's that about? Would you recommend this book?" or "That's pretty," I would want to be able to give them a little bit of a summary, kind of remember what I rated it, like how I felt reading it, because I might know that person and if I could recommend it. And if I don't feel confident that I can do those things, it's probably not for Kristen's shelves, because my shelves are basically they are my library, and I wouldn't expect other people's stuff to be in my library. It's my library. They're my books. Now, I feel the same way about things on my TBR. I'm not just going to grab a book and put it on my physical TBR. I want to know what it's about, why I'm wanting to read it. Is it an author that I absolutely love, and I feel like I can auto buy anything by that author, so I trust them? This is like All of You Blake for Maddie. This is like John Gwen for Maddie. But if I'm just like, oh, it's a cheap deal at Half Price Books, I'm just going to grab it. It so easily is like a snowball effect. And you just have all these books that you're like, I think I read The Jacket one time. I couldn't even tell you. This might just help you avoid getting back to this place if this is where you are in the future, if that's how things got maybe a little out of hand.
And again, if you're still growing your collection and you're like, the temptation is just to like fill the shelves with anything and everything. I am doing a styling series right now. There are shorts on all platforms where I'm going through how to style a shelf no matter how full or how empty it is. So you can always check that out. But I think that we will stick by the guiding principle that you don't need to just keep your shelves full for full's sake. You want the things on that shelf to bring you joy. So let's talk about some of the barriers you might have to unhauling the things that you've read, okay? Kristen already brought up one, that if you're a person who just likes to have a record, like a log of everything that you've read, and maybe you've been doing that with physical books, there are so many apps. We know about all of them, right? There's Fable, there's Goodreads, there's Storygraph. There are so many apps, or just a note in your phone, or a reading journal, a physical reading journal. There are ways that
your spreadsheet.
Yes, you can keep a spreadsheet. I have a spreadsheet. I share it in our Patreon for free. So if you want to keep a record of everything you've read, Kristen and I totally identify with that.
Yes.
We do want to do that as well, even books we didn't love or that we'll never read again. We still want a record of what we've read. So we would just advise keeping that digitally or in a journal instead of needing to keep a book that you didn't love or rate highly.
Right.
So there's some hangups. We hear them. Like, you spent money on it, or maybe it was a gift, or maybe it was sent to you or given to you for Christmas or something like that. Or someone, really, really loved it. Maybe someone in your life really loved it and recommended it to you. So they bought it for you, or you bought it because of them. So you have all this emotional baggage associated with getting rid of that thing. I think Kristen is the queen of reframing those kinds of tough feelings. So, Kristen, what do you say to yourself when you have a little bit of guilt attached to getting rid of something that maybe you spent money on or someone gave you?
Well, you do have to kind of get rid of that scarcity mindset, because I do think it comes from a place of like, is anybody going to get me books again? Or what if I don't have money for books later? Or somehow it's like flushing your money down the toilet. First off, I just feel like if it's not a hard yes for me, it's a yes for someone else. This book was created for a purpose, just like each of us. And if I can give it to anywhere, I can donate, give it away. I just think this is going to be a 5-star for the person it's going for. I send it with love. I'm not giving like yucky guilt attached to that book.
No.
You just have to like pour the positivity of, I am so proud that this author wrote this book. I wish them the best, but I'm going to let this go because also I want to like let in more yes. So if you can't say yes to everything in life, just remember when you say no to one thing, you get to say yes to something else.
Something better for you.
So if I say no more to a meh series, it was just meh, not even bad, I could be saying yes to like a 5-star transcendent, bury me with this series when I die books.
Yeah.
So you just have to tell yourself it's an energy exchange. I am just giving to receive. I am open and ready to receive.
I love anytime I feel a sense of clarity like that, I can feel gratitude. So it's like if you feel a sense of clarity that this is not for you and you're ready to release it, then, and this is with anything, not just books. This can be toxic relationships. This can be a bad job for you. This can be clothes in your closet, whatever. But if you can just, instead of feeling guilt or wasteful, if you can look at that thing and just say, it served its purpose. If this person gave me this gift, I love that person. I'm so glad it did what it did for them. And I'm so glad that they wanted to give me this. And I can keep all of that love and I can just let this thing go and I've received clarity. You know, you can always, it's never like a net loss.
No.
So just think of it that way. And what I mean, we love that there are so many ways and places you can get rid of books.
Right.
It's not like you have to throw them away. We have a half price books in our city where they will actually buy books back from you. Now you're not going to recoup your total investment, but they will give you some and you can then use that towards more, new books if you want. And we also have beautiful little free libraries all over our city. A lot of schools will take books that are appropriate for the age of the student that's in their school. Actually, public libraries will take donations sometimes. So, and then there's always homeless shelters. There are community centers, especially that service kids and teens in the summertime. They love books. So there are so many ways that you can do, get another kind of satisfaction and joyful feeling from that book by literally releasing it. So that is our number one deal with books that you have read. So maybe we should move into, now let's talk about people who fill their bookshelves with books they have not yet read.
Oh, yeah. The good old physical TBR. Oh, one more thing back to what you said.
Yeah.
So I've been on Facebook Marketplace selling some of the stuff in my home. And there are so many people selling like books for a couple bucks or like a giant stack on Facebook Marketplace. So I think that's just another good option if you are wanting to unhaul.
And Pango Books is a place that you can recoup a little bit more than half price books.
I thought there was another. Yeah. There's so many.
There's a lot of places if you feel like the financial drain of releasing those books is just too much. We totally get that. So there are places that you can then recoup some of that money.
Yeah. You're just not allowed to burn any books. We will come for you.
We do not burn books.
We will come for you. Okay. So what are we talking about now?
The physical TBR.
It's one of those things that's a tough one because I think that all of us have really good intentions when we buy books we haven't read. Or when we ask for them for Christmas and people gift them to you, whatever. I have an Amazon wish list and our followers send me books from this wish list all the time. And I get the biggest dopamine high every time I get an Amazon package. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's from my wish list. So like, I get it. We have the best of intentions, but you have to kind of be realistic about how much you read in a year. So if I know I'm going to read an average of 100 books a year, and I'm a spontaneous girly, so I'm very mood ready. And yes, I have a physical TBR, but every now and then something disrupts it. Maddie reads a series. Your best friend is going to be like, girl, if you do not buddy read this with me. So we have to be realistic. If I read 100 books a year, I'm probably going to get to 50, maybe, physical TBRs. So I need to never carry a physical TBR that's more than 50. Now and I'm a heavy reader. So I would say, as a rule of thumb for me, is if you read an average of 30 books a year, that you should maybe carry 15, because you're going to need room for spontaneity. And these numbers might be different from you, but I would kind of tell yourself, we don't keep things on the physical TBR for more than a year.
Yeah, I just don't know. I mean, that is just us. I think there's plenty of different ways to think about this, and we would welcome your feedback or your ideas in the comments just to help others. But I think that we have just found in our experience that it makes us feel overwhelmed. If we know there are books on our shelf that we're not going to get to for years, plural, then it's like, why are we storing that now? It just feels like a weight when we could just buy it later when we're actually going to read it.
Well, and it's a waste, right? Because that book is being unread. This is why I love libraries so much. It's like those books get tattered, and books were meant to be like explored and enjoyed. And I don't know. It's almost sad to me. I think I get sad for physical TBRs that sit for too long when I'm like, oh, she's been looking at me for a while.
I also think, just as we were discussing, that you can keep a record of what you have read. You can use these apps to track books that you would like to read in case you don't want to forget about them.
Yeah.
So there's no reason to like own them just to remind yourself to read them. Like it's just going to feel like a burden.
You did this last year, where you're reading The Realm of the Elderlings, which is a 15-book series.
16, yeah.
Oh, 16. What? Maddie has the financial ability to go out and buy all of them today. But she said, I really like, when I get to the next book, going to the store and picking it up, and she gets to browse. And I think we all get a little bit of like a book girly high when we get to go to the store. So like basically prolong the enjoyment. Why do we feel this need to, buy in bulk all the time? What if you told yourself, I only buy a book I just finished that I read from the library that I rated 5 stars?
Or that you are reading right now. Like I am
right now.
I am doing that with The Wheel of Time as well. Like I just buy the book that I'm currently reading. And then there is some like reward, and I'm sure there's some kind of like mental exchange going on for me. Some hormones are getting released every time I like get to finish that book, and then I know, ooh, now I get to go buy the next one.
I did that yesterday with Assassin's Quest. I said, oh, I'm 5 hours into the audio. I'm going to go buy it. And I went and I got myself a matcha. And I was so happy for myself because I could have bought the first full trilogy all at once, but buying them one at a time was like 3 fun experiences. I swear this is like the coolest hack, Maddie. If you get anything from this podcast, take Maddie's tip and buy the book that you are currently reading, as long as you have a pretty good feeling it's going to be good for you. It does stink when you buy a book and then you're like, I don't even really like this, but I'm going to read it because I bought it.
I want to talk a little bit about the fact that we change, you guys. Like the things that I would have bought, because I feel blessed. I had the ability to do it. But when I first read A Court of Thorns and Roses, and I thought, this is so peak. I am having such a good time. I need to buy and read every single series that has ever been written with an epic romance and fae men and epic battle scenes and political intrigue in these beautiful settings, and I'm going to go do it. And I really felt inspired in that moment. I felt so inspired. I was crawling all over the internet. This is how I discovered Book Talk on TikTok. Mm-hmm. I was like crawling all over the internet, like, what can I read that hits as hard as A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas? And if I had just filled my bookshelves with all of those recommendations, the reality is I read 2 or 3 series like that, and then I was satisfied and done, and I had no desire to read anymore. And so then I would have had all of these books that I had purchased that I now no longer wanted to read.
Yeah, she has unhauled some of them to me, which is nice because then I'm getting to read them. And I just think you can get genre burnout.
Absolutely,
for sure. Yeah.
And our reading taste changes. So I think if you're I don't think there's anything wrong with buying a couple books that you're planning to read in the next couple of months, especially if you, encounter a good deal or like these amazing book subscription boxes that have beautiful limited time editions.
Yes.
If you're like, oh yeah, I was planning to read that this summer, let's say, and it goes on sale, it's a limited sale, and it's beautiful, and you really you feel really confident you're going to love that special edition, then go for it. Buy something that you're planning to read in the near future. I don't think it's a problem if you're not going to read it today. But I think if you are having a hyperfixation, let's have some self-awareness and know I'm having a hyperfixation. There's probably a lot of this on Kindle Unlimited or at my library, and maybe I just don't go buy it all at once. Yeah. Maybe I don't go buy all 50 to 100 books that are on my TBR right now, because it's just possible that some of those books are not going to be interesting to you in 6 or 9 months.
Oh my gosh, you guys, because I was not in a financial place to physically buy books until literally the last 2 years. I've given myself like room in the budget to buy books. I'm just being real.
This is so real.
I have been a library diehard. Not even like I just got Kindle Unlimited. I was a library only reader for decades.
We love this for you.
Decades. And I'm not saying that to be like, library girl. It was strictly for financial like gain for myself, because I liked to read and I do not like to waste money. So if I don't know if the book's going to be good, right? So I just use a library, and I was only buying books that were like 5-star, transcendent to me. So when I looked at my shelves, the emotions that it would bring from me was just pure bliss, because they were like my favorite stories of all time, which means it wasn't a super impressive library at that time, because a lot of books aren't that impressive. So there are ways that if you are dealing with less space or a tighter budget, that you can really kind of use the tips and tricks to be a little bit more just efficient with your space. Because I look back at so many books, I'm like, yeah, I read that. And I think, I don't want to buy that now for my library. Now that I have the money and the space, I don't want that for my library, because I don't know who I would shove this book into their hands. Like, I can't think of a person that I'm like, read it. Or for Maddie and I think we make videos, right, where we hold up books. I ask myself, would I want to hold this book up outside of this is what I read this month?
Right.
Would I feel like I could recommend this to the masses? So you'll just kind of have to decide. I think the next thing we should really flow into is just what kind of emotions you want your library to evoke in you, and what is for you like your signature taste. Because if you can hone that, you can really make your shelves prettier, but also when you walk by them, you just go, oh, a little bit of fairy dust love. I just love my shelves.
I think the big thing is just like, there's the visual side of this, and then there's, which is attached to the emotional side of it.
Yes.
But I think the biggest thing is that we just don't want our bookshelves to be dumping grounds. You know what I mean? We just don't want it to be like where we throw everything. If you don't want your bookshelves to be this dumping ground, there's just this like thoughtful process of collecting, gathering, keeping, releasing that you can take a lot of pride in and a lot of joy. I take so much joy in it, and it is an ongoing process. I am because I'm constantly getting new books, and I'm reading books and releasing books, and so it has this evolution to it, and it's a vibrant living thing. It's not like you just have this static library and it's there.
No.
It should be constantly flowing with you. And so as your taste evolves, I think your shelves evolve, and I think they should. And I just don't, it's like hanging on to past versions of yourself in some ways when you're holding on to things that you don't really think you're going to revisit or go back to. So for me, I am playing with a couple of different values on my shelves. And so this is going to be very different for every person.
Yeah.
So ask yourself the questions of like, what is the purpose of my shelves? What do I do with these books? What do I do with the books that I have read? What am I wanting this to look like? And so, there are people who love to arrange their shelves by rainbow. And so maybe you're going to be really thoughtful about what edition of what books you get, because you really want that, to have a nice distribution of all different colors in your rainbow library.
And for everybody who doesn't know, because Maddie taught me this, is like if you go on Goodreads and you look at a book, you can go to details and it will show you editions, and it'll be like, there are 17 editions of this book. And if you click on that, it will show you so that you can start curating. That was just something that literally changed the game for me.
Yeah, you can look at different editions of the books that you want. So if you're a person who really loves hardcovers, then look for those hardcover editions. If you love special editions, if you love sprayed edges, if you're building like a dark academia wall in your living room or something, then maybe you're going to want to go with more monochromatic editions of the books that you buy. Or if you're a person who loves to annotate and it's a lot easier to annotate a paperback, then maybe you're going to go for paperbacks. Or if you really want them to be light and portable, if you are a person who knows you're going to have a heftier collection, you're absolutely going to be able to fit more paperbacks than hardbacks. So maybe you go the paperback route. I mean, you can just be really thoughtful about this. Like, what am I wanting? I know that I love to lend books, and I tend to love the feeling of the cloth-bound naked hardback. And so I am often buying hardbacks with the intention of taking off the dust jacket and with the intention of being able to lend that out and knowing it's going to be sturdy enough to handle multiple reads by multiple people. So I like to buy hardbacks, but there are times when we're annotating that I will buy paperbacks. And I think that having intention behind what I've brought in gives me the most joy. It's like I feel so much purpose, and it really helps getting into what we're going to talk about after this process, which is more like the styling of things. Yeah. It really helps me with the visual organization and the styling of things, knowing like what things have what purpose. And I think if you're doing shelves in a way that's like, all right, maybe my shelf is like all of my favorite books. Great. Then let's arrange those. Let's find a way to show those to their best advantage so that you're going to your bookshelf feeling nothing but pride and joy.
And if you're not feeling that way now,
that's okay.
We'll just give you a couple tips, to just help with this. So Marie Kondo, everybody knows her. She's the one who said, like, take all the clothing out of your closet and touch everything. I love doing this with my closet. I think I curate my closet the way you curate your bookshelves, like the more I'm thinking about it. But when you go through your books, instead of like just looking at them up on your shelf, we really actually want you to take everything down and take time to touch every book and ask yourself a couple of questions. Do I know somebody this would be good for? Will I possibly reread this book? If you have kids, like, is this a book that I will ask my kids to read? I'll buddy read it with them. I'll read it aloud. Ask yourself, did I rate this 4 or 5 stars? When I read this book, how did I feel? Because depending on your vibe, like, there have been books that I'm like, this was a good book. I'm going to give you a suggestion. I'm going to just give you a little slice. Okay. So Kristen Hanna's book, The Great Alone. I read that book. I thought it was beautifully written. It also was very full of trauma and was super triggering to me. So even though I believe it was a great book and well done, that is a book I got rid of because I actually don't feel great looking at it. I felt very low, even though I rated it highly. So if you have books that just kind of give you a little bit of an icky feeling or it wasn't for you, please let it go. Like, honestly, you know what I need to unhaul? I'm thinking about it right now.
What?
I bought this beautiful edition of The Picture of Dorian Gray in Shakespeare and Company in Paris, France. So it's like so special to me. And then I read this book and I was like, not for me.
I love The Picture of Dorian Gray. I loved that book. So it's just so funny.
So like, permission. Yeah. Like, it doesn't matter if you got it in Paris, France. Like, I don't know.
Or if your sister loves it. If you don't love it, it shouldn't be on your bookshelf.
Or if it's popular, you're like, oh, everybody likes this. Like Maddie, OKT, she told me today, she said, Crescent City was not the SJM series for me. I'm probably unhauling. And I said, oh, sacrilege.
Now, this is so interesting because thank goodness for screenshots because there's a part of me, I think, these are my confessions. The thing that makes it difficult for me to release books is when I know that there's a potential for us to talk about them in a video.
That's
and so true. Whether we're comparing and contrasting or we're referencing them, it's like I want to have that visual representation. And I think I just have had to really let that go. I'm like, if we're going to talk about something that I no longer own, I'll just put up a screenshot. Like I don't have to own the books that I am not going to, like Kristen said, lend out, reread, reference on a regular basis. I love having a shelf full of books that I will reread and that I will have my kids read, that I want my spouse to read, that I want my friends to read. There's no better feeling. There's no better feeling than looking at bookshelves and being absolutely in love. And I will say for myself, this is a Maddie thing. I love having a shelf full of books I have read and loved. That is me. You can totally have a shelf of books to be read. That's also a beautiful thing. I have friends who have shelves like that, and I think that's beautiful. Yeah. I love looking at the books that I already know and love. I do not like having a very extensive TBR. I don't like having a big physical TBR. It just overwhelms me, and it's like people will look at that shelf and be like, oh, did you like that book? Or like, what's that book about? And I'm like, I haven't read it. I don't like that feeling. I don't like that feeling at all. So I love that. So if you know yourself and you take a second to sit with yourself about your intentions, I think that you will be well on your way to the action steps.
I literally feel like people could go into their kitchen and use all of these tips again in their kitchen.
Same tips.
Okay, so let's get back to the pile situation. So you go through the pile, you touch every individual book. Just make 3 piles. Make a I'm going to donate. You can make one that's like your TBR. So maybe you're like me and you thought you had a small physical TBR. Oh,
did you count last night?
I counted last night because, guys, Maddie and I are going to be starting a short series on our reels on Instagram and on our book talk account where we're going to be reading through our physical TBR. And I said, oh, I probably got just a couple over here. No, it was 58. And I thought, so I have a pile of my physical TBR. We'll talk about it later. I'm stress sweating. And then you have all the books that you want to keep because they, for whatever reason, deserve to be on your library shelves. Then you can start going into what Maddie has done in her short series about decorating. And we'll talk a little bit about that, about how to then style them. And if you're like me and you want to kind of to see a list, what I've decided to do is just literally have all of my physical TBR lined out within reaching distance. Don't put those up high. Don't put them up high where I got to get on a stool. They need to be where I can grab at them and I see them every time I go in to grab a book. And then you can intersperse them if you want, but just have maybe a note in your phone that is a list of your physical TBR so that as you read them, you can tick them off, then rate them, log them where you want to log them. And then you get to decide again, is this deserving of my bookshelf or is this something that now I'm ready to go take off to the donation? I would say I take stuff to Goodwill or donations at least once a month. This is clothing, this is housing items, and there's usually some books in there that I'm dropping off. I think this is just a part of letting in and letting out. We let so much into our homes every month, just naturally. You just let things in, but I think it's the letting out that actually takes a little bit more work. But I promise you that if you create some habits for your shelf, you'll just constantly feel inspired when you look at your shelf and you'll get to a place where you're like, I'm a professional. I don't overspend on books. Shopping for books is more fun because I now know all the editions to look at. I know what my scheme is. Am I the color scheme? Am I going with a certain vibe? It's all of a sudden not a hodgepodge, but this beautiful place for you to express your amazing mind of reading. It's the physical expression of your taste. And it's so much fun to get there. The process is just as fun as when it's done and it's perfect.
Yeah, I'm so curious with the touching every book thing. That worked really well for you last night?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Not me reading the inside jacket and I'm like, where did this come from? Of the 58 books, I bought less than 10.
Yeah, because we get a lot of
gifts. Get a lot of books. And I'm like, gifts, sweet, loving.
So here's my question. With books you have already read, do you go back and touch every single one when you go through it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And there's a couple of books I was like, oh, I bought a special edition and I kept the original. Do I want the original or do I just want my special edition? So I actually got rid of
I was going to talk about that. Because sometimes you will love a book so much that you collect multiple editions of it.
Sure.
I have a couple like that.
Masters of Death.
Masters of Death. I own 3 copies. We all know.
Sword of Cargan.
I only own 2 copies of that.
Okay, what are other ones you own more of? You have a couple of Wisteria, but that was an accident.
Oopsies. So I was going to say, I think a helpful tip when you're going through your curation process, if you do have a lot of books, is to just go by genre. So that's what I do. I'll just be like, you know what? I don't have all night to go through my whole book collection, but I'm just going to look at my romantasy books and I'm just going to check back in. Like, do these spark joy? Am I missing this? Would I love to reread this? Do I think this is worth recommending, lending out? Yeah. And I'll just like do that, or I'll like go through my sci-fi shelf or whatever. When I'm going through my TBR, I get relentless. I get relentless and ruthless because, as you know, I do not like having a big one. So I'll just be like, well, how long have I had it? Have I had it for 3 months and didn't feel the need to pick it up? Well, that was a mistake. Or I'll be like, do I really, looking at this, do I want to read this more than 10 other books right now? Oh. If I don't want to read that book more than I want to read 10 other books, let it go. Let it go. Because I'm telling you what, right now, like, there are books I have not yet bought yet that are living rent-free in my brain that I really want to read. I really want to read The Dandelion Dynasty by Ken Liu. I only own The Grace of Kings. It's a 4-book series, and I know once I read book 1, I'm going to want to read the rest. So I'm looking at everything on my physical TBR right now going, do I want to read it more than I want to read The Dandelion Dynasty? Oh. No. And I want to read The Age of Madness. I want to read Daughter of the Empire. So it's like I have things that I'm like, you know what? I can let that go. I can let that go. It's still going to be there. You know what? If I think of it in a little bit, if I think of it in 6 months and I want to go get that paperback, $6. I can go find that for $6 at Half Price Books. It is not that deep. I just don't.
Yeah, or like used books on Amazon.
I get super relentless. Super relentless. At any given time, I can only be really excited to read about 10 books. So really, I just don't think my physical TBR should be bigger than that. And that is a bold statement because it is currently bigger than that. Mm-hmm. So I have got work to do, girl.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So you talking now, I'm like, God, I need to go through that physical TBR because
not everyone has this same value. If you're listening to this and you're like, I got 100 books on my TBR, I love this for you. You have to check in with your own feelings. If Kristen used to tell me that she wanted at least a full set of shelves on her, library wall to just be books she couldn't wait to read, that she would just go to her own bookshelves, like her little library, and be like, what am I in the mood for? And maybe Kristen isn't a person who keeps 10 books she's excited about in her head at all times. Maybe she is more like, I woke up on a Tuesday and I don't even know what I want to read. Let's go look at the bookshelves and see what makes me excited.
That is really fun.
And if that is you, then girl, give yourself a little collection, or people, go give yourself a collection to go pick from. Like, you don't have to be, just know yourself. Just know yourself and you'll have a better time.
The thing though that I think is actually more common, like we're being really sweet, like if that's you, it's no big deal. But what we heard on Maddie's first bookshelf decor video, most of the comments were people being like, how could I ever decorate my shelves? They're jam-packed.
Overflowing.
And I'm like, okay, so I'm imagining this like a closet because this is like how I think of it. I go through my physical closet 2 to 3 times a month. Every time I do laundry, essentially, I go and I'm like, okay, so I'm realizing I'm re-wearing all of this.
And I never wear this other stuff.
I'm not re-wearing. Why is that? Is it because I just bought it on a whim because I was out with someone, or it looked cool and it's like the alter ego version of me that I think I am, but I'm obviously not because I'm not wearing it. So you can do the exact same thing with your books. Which books are just like literally gathering dust because it's like I liked them, but I liked them at a different time. I was a different person. I was in a different mood, but the mood that I am predominantly is not in alignment with this thing. That's how I feel about some of the things in my physical TBR is like if you get in a frenzy, say it's a dark academia frenzy and it's fall, so you just go buck wild. Well, spooky season is only so long. So if you don't get to all of them, so you're waiting for the next spooky season, or actually you burnt out during your last spooky season. Yeah. I just think these things happen. And I would love to just encourage you to give yourself a little bit of restraint. Maddie and I talk about this a lot, that sometimes withholding can be quite a turn on. Yeah. To just give yourself the I'll buy that book when I'm going to read that book.
Yeah, it'll still be there for me.
I don't think they're going to stop selling it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know what's really hot? Leaving a bookstore with one book. It is hot to come out with a haul, but it almost feels better to leave with one book. Like, you could go out and buy a book once a week. And if you read one book a week, then you will just constantly have this beautiful cycle.
I do think if you're a collector, I just want to do a little caveat that I just thought of this. I have friends who love vintage editions of things.
Okay.
And so, they never know when the when the lightning's going to strike. you know? So it's like if they're out and they are at an estate sale or they see something on Facebook Marketplace or they're in a used bookstore and they score, okay, I don't care. That is not the time to buy whatever book you're on. That is the time to be like, I want my series to match. I found the 1980s editions. They're in great condition. Dude, just buy the whole series. Just do it. Just go for it. Or like if you're collecting and you know that you love a certain edition or a certain release of things and you just happen to see it, I'm like, just go for it. Go for it. Yeah. You know you're going to get to it. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the stuff that you can go into any Books A Million, Barnes & Noble, whatever. You can jump in at any time and get that book. There's really just no reason to hoard it right now. Yeah. And I know that I heard once that there are dragon hoarders. And there are there's different things. And people who love to hoard their book collection. And I love this for you. If that is you and it brings you joy, great. I think there's just different people with different vibes. I think that I'm just one of those people who would feel really overwhelmed by having a whole bunch of books that I needed to dust and arrange that I was maybe never going to read. Not in the next 10 years of my life.
Oh my gosh. And you know what is the worst feeling? And I felt this when I had my 2 bookshelves. The worst feeling is when you have a book you really want to add and you're like, I don't even have a place for you.
I don't have room.
And I love when you get a special edition or it becomes a favorite book and you want to face it forward so the front can show. But that takes being a curator and having space.
Yeah, it does.
And I know there is such a thing as buying more shelves. I totally get that. Maddie's husband and her just built me a beautiful library. So now I have so much lovely space. But when I tell you having empty spaces makes me so much happier than if it was completely full. Because I want to always have room.
I always want to have room to grow. Yes. I agree. So here's what we want to know from you guys. What tips or tricks are resonating? What kind of a book collector do you think you are? And I want to know cheekily, what's a book you never thought you would get rid of? But you did. Because for me, it was The Name of the Wind. I was so confident that I had a special edition of The Name of the Wind, and then I went and bought a special edition of The Wise Man's Fear, and it was a beautiful edition. And when I tell you, I have never unhauled so fast. I read that book. It was so sad to me. I had to get rid of it. And there's just that. There you go. Those are my confessions. If you've ever bought a special edition book and you thought, God, I'm going to love this. Everybody loves this. And you hated it, girl, that just means somebody else needs that beautiful special edition, not you.
Yeah, I saw it at Half Price Books last time we went. I said, oh, there's Maddie's edition. Hope you find your friends.
It's going to find the perfect owner, and they're going to be like, oh my God, my favorite book, and it's in this beautiful special edition.
Oh. So moral of the story is, it's your world. We're just living in it.
That's right.
But if you are somebody who is ready to feel inspired, you're ready for a change, we hope that this conversation shakes things up for you energetically on those shelves so this can feel like a brand new world for you. Lots of stories to explore. Guys, we are so young. I don't care what your age is. We are so young. There's so many good books to read. There's no need to stuff our lives full right now. Create some space. If you are listening to this podcast anywhere where you can rate or review, we really appreciate that. You can also comment, and subscribe. It makes us so excited to create more content for you guys and set aside time for conversations like this. Have a good rest of your day. Thanks for hanging out.
Bye.
Bye.